Hello, Karl. This is Dimitris from MetalKaoz and Chicago. How are you today?
Doing great. How are you, Demetrius?
I'm perfectly fine. After all, we have to talk about the new Nile record, right?
Well, we're supposed to. That's why we're here to promote the new record, but we'll see what happens.
Sure. Let's start with the cliche question. How long have you been working on The Underworld Awaits Us All?
We worked on it too long. We started after the pandemic, but a lot of stuff got in the way. We had some member replacements and touring commitments, so it really took longer than we had wanted, but
Okay.
that's life.
Of course. You mentioned the two members. So the Dan on the bass and Zach on the guitars. Were they involved in the making of the new album?
They're on the record. They weren't here yet for the writing of the songs, but they played on the record, and
Okay.
that's good. I'm happy they're on the record.
So can you say what they will bring to the sound of Nile, even from the stage?
Well, I can tell you that on the record, uh, Dan did a really great job with these songs. I thought that his approach to playing the bass like a bass was really refreshing. So many times guitar players play the bass and it's just the guitar
Hmm.
an octave lower and it disappears into the mix. But he had his own ideas about the bass parts, and I thought that was really helpful. This is one of the, I think, best bass recordings we've ever managed to capture. Um, yeah, and he brings that to all the older songs as well. Um, so, there's a whole back catalog of material that we're going to be playing on tour. So, he had to learn all the older songs, but he got his own ideas in there. So I thought that was really helpful.
And that's great to hear because you produced the album, so you know best what knobs to turn or what to do, right? And if you
Well,
have
I, I,
some,
le- I left the mixing to Mark Lewis. He did the mixing and mastering. The only thing I did was record people and try to make sure that everybody was in tune.
okay, okay. But sometimes the non-professionals like myself, when we say produce, we think that you sit behind a big board and you do all the stuff. But that's the mixing process, right?
Right. A lot of what producing entails is like simple stuff, like getting people to play in tune, in time, getting them to show up for the recording, um, and just trying to keep things on track. Like this is a song, and this is what we're doing. We're not doing that other thing. We're playing the song.
Okay. Um, so you have again, I will butcher his name, Mikael,
Hmm.
draw the cover artwork for the album. So, of course, this is not the first time you work with him. However, how much input did you give him?
What we did was we shared the song titles and the song lyrics, and told them what each song was about, and let them hear the demos. But then we said, go do whatever. This is what it means. Go do something, and that's what he did. And of course, we went back and forth for a while on the colors. Um, but that's all his ideas, right there. What
You said that you gave him the song titles and maybe what some of the songs are talking about. So I have to
Mhm.
ask you now, what input did you give him as in regard to chapter for not being hung upside down and the rest of this long, long song title?
Well, he got the song title and the lyrics, and I wrote a little passage like what it was about, so that he'd understand what it meant. Uh, and he took it from there. I don't know if you've seen the inside cover art, but for
I
each
haven't.
song, he does an illustration. Um,
Hmm.
I have one. Hang on a second.
Are we doing a spoiler now? Because, of course,
Yes,
the album has
this-
not been released yet, right? So,
that's right. But yeah, this I guess you could think of it as a spoiler. It's the album, right? Inside, in the booklet,
okay.
for each page of the booklet, there's
Oh, yes, of course.
each one has its own illustration and whatnot.
So
And
now I'm really curious because, of course, on vinyl it will look way, way better.
no, dude, the vinyl's sick. They just arrived like 2 days ago. I got my copy, and holy shit, looks great.
I'm laughing because you said shit, and we were talking about the feces. So there is some sort of a connection. I believe that's the longest title for a Nile song, right? Did you?
Yep.
break
Are
the
you going to
record?
say it? Are you going to say it? Come on.
Sure. Chapter
It's
for
fun.
not being hung upside down on a stake in the underworld and made to eat feces by the four apes. Damn.
Fuck
it.
yeah. It was very close.
Yes. Because I was not wearing my glasses, so I do have an excuse for that.
Okay.
It sounds very specific by the four apes.
Yes, by the four apes.
Okay. Is there something that I should know about that? Or should I wait for my vinyl record?
Well, you can wait to read the explanation, but the four apes are a mythological thing in the Egyptian underworld. Yeah, they're a thing. They reoccur frequently in Egyptian mythology. The four apes, they're the sons of Osiris. And they're terrible monkeys in the underworld. They do lots of monkey things to dead people.
Sounds like glowing your face and all that nice stuff. And then speaking about unofficial records, to strike with Secret Funk, it's almost the shortest song. I'm saying almost because I think you have, not I think, you have Pestilence and Iniquity. That is 1 minute 54 seconds. So it's kind of longer, the new one. So how did you manage to put all these Nile elements in less than 2 minutes?
Well, the faster the tempo is, the more the stuff condenses. It's the same amount of stuff as a longer song. It's just squeezed into a shorter space. Like, I don't know if you remember the old Napalm Death records. Sometimes they have songs that are 13 seconds, 20 seconds, because they're playing a lot of stuff. Same amount of stuff as other people's songs would be that are much longer, but you squish it all into a little bit of time.
Now I have to ask that. Because you said you can condense material, sound more aggressive and all that stuff. However, it's true that we're getting old. So how can you manage to keep it so aggressive? And on a more serious note, how you do that live in an entire tour?
Well, you know, you're right. We're all getting older as metal people. I think it's the same as like any other sport that one does as one ages. You still want to do the same stuff. It just hurts more.
I can attest to that, but I'm not playing music live. It sometimes hurt even unplugging something from the wall, but what can you do?
That's a little different. That's electric shock.
No, I was actually talking about physically removing the plug. So if you stretch your back sometimes,
Oh, yeah, you
something
do.
pops.
Yeah, I have a vacuum cleaner injury from plugging it in and unplugging it.
Or just waking up. Anyhow. So still, how do you build a song? Does it start from a riff? Because then you have George adding his craziness behind the drums. And then how does the song build up into this result of condensed aggressiveness?
Well, I think you're right. Metal songs are born of the riff, right? And the riff is the thing that everything relates to. Everything relates back to the riff. With Nile songs, I write the words first, and when I'm coming up with the riffs, I already have the blueprint for the song because the lyrics are kind of like a roadmap for writing the riffs. So in a way, yeah, it's built on the riff, but the riffs come from the words. And that's how Nile songs get born.
That's interesting because to my mind, I thought that you were writing the lyrics after the music has been written. Because going through the lyrics, you're using some really strange words. And I think in some cases you devise your own words, right? I'm looking at pentagrammation. I was not successful in finding where it comes from. I know that there is the pentagrammaton, but pentagrammation, although it sounds good from a Greek.
Yes. It's funny you say that because, yes, it is an invented word or a synthetic word, which conceptually relates to the pentagrammaton of Nephren-Ka is an extrapolation of a synthetic scale. And a synthetic scale is one that isn't a real scale. You make it up yourself. It's a synthetic scale. It doesn't naturally occur in the musical universe. It's one that you invent.
Well, if we want to be a little bit philosophical about these things, if you think about something and you think that it exists, then it becomes, it takes existence on its own, right?
Yes. This is like quantum physics right here. If you think something, you can will it into existence just by that. All things are born this way.
And sorry, go on.
So the pentagrammaton of Nephren-Ka relates to if you take any 5-note scale, right? If we see the root word penta, pentatonic means 5 tones, right? If you take away one of those tones, you're left with a 4-note chord, and it just happens through the magic of the pentatonic scale that these remaining notes make up a quartal minor 11th chord. No matter which way you invert them, it still comes out to this quartal 4-note chord. Okay, so if you take some other note, and it doesn't have to be the one you took out, it can be any note. If you put a note back in, well, now you have, again, a pentatonic scale, but it's not the same one. It's got a different tonality.
Right.
You can achieve all sorts of modes depending on which note you stick back in. As long as you have 5 notes, it is a pentatonic scale. So with this way of, dialing in different notes and tones, you can get a lot of cool stuff. So the pentagrammaton of Nephren-Ka is taking the synthetic Nephren-Ka scale that we made up back when we were making the Nephren-Ka album. We had to come up with a scale that would work for those songs. So we invented one. So this song is taking that Nephren-Ka scale and doing this pentagrammaton, which is like, if we conceptualize it, it's like a dial that you can spin different ways, and depending on which one of these 5 notes you take out and put back in, you get all kinds of different stuff. And it was really beautiful because the notes have this relationship to each other that's different, but somehow strangely beautiful. So that's the pentagrammaton of Nephren-Ka.
And that's, ladies and gentlemen, that's lesson number 1 regarding Nephren-Ka. Man, love it. I love how you explain this. I wish you have done, a video talking about these things. I mean, I could sit here and listen to you all day. Okay.
Well, it comes from a guitar lesson that I got from Rusty Cooley. So this is kind of his genius. I just took the idea and played it on the acoustic. He shreds the shit out of it on the electric guitar, but I put it on the acoustic and made it something pretty.
So that instrumental is also the intro for Overlords of the Black Earth, or there is no connection?
Well, I like to think of it that way because
Okay.
the Pentagrammaton of Nephren-Ka is very quiet, it's calm, and when the next song comes in, Overlords of the Black Earth, it goes bang.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the whole reason to have something quiet.
Sure.
Is
Yeah.
that you can go bah!
And this is something that Nile are usually using, right?
I like
Calm
this
before the
dynamic.
storm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Who is doing the the backing vocals? No, those that sound a little bit Eastern, closer to the ancient Egypt stuff, especially Under the Curse of One God, Doctrine of Last Things. You know what I'm talking about. This is why you're laughing.
Yeah. We really wanted a particular sound for the choir type vocals, and I didn't want to just use sampled keyboard choirs because you hear that all the time, and I'm tired of hearing it. I didn't want to put it on this record.
Okay.
So I wanted some real live girls to do this stuff, but we live right here in South Carolina, which is the center, the epicenter of the Bible Belt. So there's all kind of gospel choirs. So we found some gospel choir singers and brought them in. They'd never heard metal before. They didn't know what it was, but they caught on very quick. Like in no time, they were banging their heads while they were recording these. It was a lot of fun. It reminded me of, you're in Chicago, right? Do they still do the gospel brunch on Sunday morning at the House of Blues?
I'm not sure if they stopped after the pandemic or during the pandemic, but I know I always see the advertisement before so I know what you're talking about, but I'm not sure if they are doing that still.
Well, that's kind of like this, what this would be. Like if you brought those choirs in and put them on a metal record, that's what you got.
They have some great voices in gospel music, great voices.
Yeah.
Although it's interesting to have them singing in a Nile album. Well, it's kind of bizarre, right? Especially when we are talking about gods of an ancient Egypt. Who knows?
Well, it's funny you say that because one of the things that went through my mind is like, okay, if Nile is going to have some backup chick singers like, you know, Prince or Stevie Wonder or, you know, anybody like this, who would the backup singers for Nile be? What we need is En Vogue wearing some Cleopatra outfits. That's who we need as Nile backup singers.
So are you doing that in the upcoming tours? That's a great
Well, we
idea.
would do it if we could afford it. If we had the money, yes, I'd fucking do it just for that bit of fun because it is ridiculous fun. But when I listen to the songs, that's what I see in my brain.
Now I'm seeing that too. So I will be waiting for this to happen at some point. So for the same song, Under the Curse of the One God, there is a mention of Thoth there. However, reading the first lyric line, dread epoch of darkness and illiteracy has been thrust upon us, sounds a little bit relevant to today.
It is. I'm kind of talking about today, but I'm expanding on ideas from the Islamic conquest of Egypt in 643, 639 to 641, somewhere in there. It took a while. It didn't happen overnight. But I think the parallel with today is nobody reads anymore.
Yes.
Nobody thinks for themselves. We live in a disinformation age, which I think is very much akin to practical illiteracy.
Correct.
Right? Because nobody has to read anymore. They just go on their cell phones and You got the knowledge of the world right there, at the touch of a Google button. But are people any smarter? No, I think we're not as smart. I think we've become, in our own way, illiterate. I mean, we can all read, but what are we doing with it?
Well, you can read. I will take this step one step further. So I think we have forgotten to write too, right? Get a piece of paper and a pen and write. So if you've forgotten to write, then you have to a little bit forget how to read too, because those things are interconnected. So
Yes.
I'm not sure if we can still correctly read, because you have people reading the same thing and thinking the two very different, two different opinions. Craziness.
Yes. Yes, it's nuts. It's completely nuts.
So yeah, apparently humanity likes to go in circles, right, and go back to where it
I think
started.
so. I think so. I think we're headed for another self-destruction of civilization. And I wonder often if this hasn't already happened a few times in the history of mankind. Like, what do we really know, past 4,000 or 5,000 years of human history? Not so much.
Right. Or we
Right.
know what we have, what the written things that remain, but who has written those things?
Right? Who wrote them?
Correct.
Also, think about it. Like we said a minute ago, no one writes anymore. So what are we actually leaving behind that would last, thousands of years for the generations of humanity yet to come after we destroy ourselves? What will we actually have left that they can make use of? Cell phones? Will our cell phones last, 10,000 years or whatever, buried under the rubble of humanity?
I don't think so. And
I don't think so.
one mind exercise or experiment I'd like to do is think about what the future archaeologists may discover. So what we have, digital content, how do you preserve that?
What if, when humanity finally reinvents itself, they will probably not have the same technologies that we had? So whatever, CDs or, hard drives or whatever, will they even be able to read them? Will they even recognize them as containing information?
Hopefully what DVD they will discover will not be from someone who had, I don't know, a crazy affection for something. Anyhow, but yes, unfortunately, what we are talking about, it sounds like the lament for the destruction of time, right?
Yes, exactly. Lament for the destruction of time. What is about humanity that will be left? And it kind of erases our timeline and our understanding of ourselves or where we're going.
Yeah, and it's we are laughing with the things we are saying, but it's sad. It's very sad.
Yes, it's almost as though we are lemmings marching over a cliff together, and we all know there's a cliff there, and we're all willingly just walking off the cliff into our own destruction and finding humor in it, writing songs about it. Why does death metal even exist? Think about that for a few minutes, right? It's music that should not be talking about the brutality of life and death.
Why do you say it shouldn't be, though?
Is this, like, think about music. What is the purpose of music? People listen to music for entertainment. They use it for worship. They use it to relax. They use it to...
As an outlet?
As an outlet. There are many, human uses of music. But metal, we put it on and it makes us feel good. It's full of energy and power. But does it have a productive purpose in the grand scheme of humanity? Is humanity better off because there's a cannibal corpse or a suffocation?
I believe yes, because you go to a concert, right?
Mm-hmm.
and you feel a connection with the band. Both of you are sweating, both of you are headbanging, so it's a sense of a community, right? And you kind
Mm-hmm.
of express the outlet I was had in mind was all the negativity that you have in life. You put it in your headbanging and mossing.
See, I
That's
believe all these things too. I am in total agreement with what you just said. So while we're feeling good about, oh, yes, we got all our negative feelings, but we are still
at the same.
lemmings marching towards the cliff, and we're going to fall over that cliff, but at least we're happy. We found some things to be happy about. We banged our heads. We were metal. We're going to die, though. Humanity, I think, is headed for some self-destruction of some sort. I don't know exactly what. There's so many options. Take your pick.
All of them, most probably. Most probably. But I do remember when thrash was getting the attention, at least in Greece, where I was born and raised, that we started looking at the lyrics and we liked that they had political opinions, just like punk did, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there were things that made me think as a teenager. So I hope that the same would apply these days. Read the lyrics written by Karl and see a little bit between the lines. But again, it goes back to what we said. People have forgotten that art, the
Right.
art of writing lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
So I would love to see the glass half full, but no, I'm on the other side. Why are you laughing?
Because it's true. I'm laughing because you're speaking the truth.
Oh boy. Okay, you kind of derailed my thinking about music, solely about music. So going back to to how the music, the songs are being structured. How do you challenge each other? Write a faster lick, then ask from George do a more insane drum roll. How do you push this envelope?
Just like you just did it there. Make a demo of the song and send it to George, and George will start putting his ideas in it, and then we'll talk, and we'll go, this part needs to be more crazy. This part needs to go faster, or this part needs to go slower and heavier, or put something insane right there. It's that easy. It's an organic kind of process that I think has gotten better because George and I we're 20 years together now, right? So there's a certain communication that has gotten better over time, over the years. And I think that's why this album is so cohesive.
Yeah.
Because George and I talk to each other.
Do people do that anymore? Let's not get there. But yes, it makes sense. Nile is one of those bands that after a decade, you have become a family, right? Better than a family. You know where you start and where the other person begins and so forth. So it's great to see that. So you're studying ancient Egypt. Do people send you stuff or prompt you, hey, take a look at this story or do this, or even actual material stuff?
Yeah, all the fucking time. Sometimes they send ideas that are so good, you can't ignore it. But I usually don't end up using those because I think I'm supposed to be writing my own songs. I think that's something you should be doing. So even if someone else has a great idea, I usually say, man, that's a great fucking idea. Go do something with it. Yeah.
But that's the same if it's a good idea, especially. Okay. So once the album is out, Nile will be busy, very busy touring. And you have booked even the first 2 months of 2025 coming to North US. How the rest of 2025 looks for Nile?
Well, we can't get too far ahead of ourselves, but probably in the springtime of 2025, we'll do a European tour part 2. And probably summer festivals. Then we're going to do the States and Canada again. We're talking about going out with Cryptopsy. So that might happen. But I don't want to get too far out in the future because, man, you never know what the fuck's going to happen. We're booked all the way up through February of 25, so that's enough.
Yeah, we have
Not to worry about today.
Not to plan very much ahead. Last question. You released Saurian Apocalypse 13 years after Saurian Exorcism. So do we have to wait 30 years more for the next one?
Somebody asked me that the other day, and I hope the fuck we don't have to wait that long. It was too long of a wait, but it was very busy with Nile in those years.
Yeah, of course.
So Nile needed my attention, so I had to be there. It comes first.
Of course. And bonus question. You have 3 songs that start with chapter 4 or chapter 0. What's the idea behind that? Are you writing an unofficial book, virtual book?
That's pretty good, right? That's a good idea. The chapters are usually coming from the Book of the Dead, where every title of every chapter says chapter for blah, 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 chapter for this, chapter for that. So it's kind of like that. Like if you look at Nile's songs, like all of them, they're kind of like, chapters from ancient texts. So that's why I put that there, because this is this chapter or that chapter.
And you just said that you cannot use ideas from someone else, but there you go, using ideas from Book of the Dead.
Well, those guys have been dead for 4,000 years. They're not going to come knock on my door asking me to pay them for the song. Hey, you used our song. Well, we want to get paid. They're not going to do that. They're not going to say that.
You never know what happens after we die, man. You never know. You never know.
We don't know. Yeah. What if after we die and all these guys come up to me and go, man, you fucking stole our ideas. Fuck you.
Bring the monkeys.
Bring the monkeys.
Karl, it was a pleasure talking to you. See you next year here at Chicago.
I love coming to Chicago. It's one of my favorite places to be.
Have safe travels. Stay healthy. And keep it aggressive.
Thank you, my friend. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.